Have you ever paused to consider how patterns shape our world and understanding of it? Patterns, in essence, are repetitions that form a larger picture. Picture a seamstress diligently pinning a paper pattern onto a piece of cloth. Each pin mark is a repetition, but together they form a dress pattern. Or take a foundry worker who uses a wooden gear mold to shape molten metal. The gear takes form through the repetition of the mold's pattern. Now, let's extend this concept to the realm of knowledge. Archaeological discoveries, textual findings, and even astronomical observations, all of these are like the dots of a pattern. Each discovery on its own may seem insignificant, but as they repeat and accumulate, they form a larger truth, much like the dots forming a recognizable W. One such intriguing pattern emerges in what many believe to be the burial shroud of Jesus Christ, known as the Shroud of Turin. The Shroud of Turin is a subject of intense scrutiny and debate, believed by millions to be the burial shroud of Jesus Christ. This linen cloth, woven in a 3-to-1 herringbone pattern, has left scholars, historians, and believers fascinated and puzzled for centuries. Its length and width, measured in even cubits, a unit of measurement not used in medieval Europe but in ancient Israel, further fuel the discussion. The shroud's history is shrouded in mystery, with no definitive chain of custody before the Middle Ages. However, its first recorded appearance was in the 14th century in France, and it has been kept in the Cathedral of St. John the Baptist in Turin, Italy, since the late 16th century. The controversy surrounding the Shroud of Turin centers on its authenticity, with skeptics arguing it's a medieval forgery, while believers maintain it's the genuine burial cloth of Christ. Despite numerous scientific investigations, from carbon dating to textile analysis, the debate remains unresolved, leaving room for faith and skepticism alike. Absolute proof of the shroud's authenticity will never be established due to the absence of a clear historical trail. Yet we live our lives without absolute proof of many things, relying instead on the weight of evidence. In the case of the shroud, it is the patterns of evidence that have been discovered within the cloth that may hint at its origins. So, what patterns of evidence does the shroud offer us? Let's delve deeper. The Shroud of Turin is not just any piece of cloth, it bears a distinct pattern that tells a tale of its own. This fine linen artifact is woven in an intricate 3-to-1 herringbone pattern. This weave is not random or accidental, but a testament to the craftsmanship of its creators and a clue to its origin. The direction of the twist of the strands is significant. It rules out Egypt, a known center of linen production, and instead points towards Palestine. The shroud is not only remarkable for its weave. The dimensions of this cloth are also noteworthy. Its length and width are measured in even cubits, a unit of measurement that was not in use in medieval Europe. This is where critics argue the shroud was forged. However, the use of cubits was common in ancient Israel, again suggesting a much earlier and geographically distinct origin. These physical attributes of the shroud, the herringbone pattern, the twist of the strands, the dimensions in cubits, all hint at a wealthy owner, someone who could afford fine linen and skilled craftsmen. This aligns with the biblical account of Joseph of Arimathea, a wealthy man who, according to the Gospel of Matthew, provided the burial cloth for Jesus. In 2002, a fascinating discovery was made. As conservation measures were being undertaken on the shroud in Italy, a rare type of stitch was found on its backside. This stitch was known from only one other place, the Masada fortress in Israel, which fell to the Romans less than a generation after Jesus' time. This stitch, hidden for centuries, provided yet another pattern linking the shroud to the time and place of Jesus' burial. In the fabric of the shroud itself, we find patterns that align with its biblical origins. Each thread, each stitch, each measurement forms part of a larger pattern, a tapestry of evidence that points towards a truth that transcends the cloth itself. But the patterns don't merely end with the cloth, they extend to the image imprinted on it. Let's delve deeper into the image on the shroud. It is not a mere sketch or painting. Instead, it's a negative image, meaning it shows light and dark, reversed. It was only when photography came into being in the late 19th century that the image on the shroud was fully realized. When the first photograph of the shroud was developed, the negative plate showed a positive image, revealing a level of detail previously unseen. This stark reversal of light and dark is a pattern that adds another layer of complexity to the shroud's mystery. The image also holds three-dimensional qualities, a pattern that defies the capabilities of medieval forgers. In the 1970s, researchers used a device called a VP8 image analyzer, originally designed to create three-dimensional images of the moon's surface. When they applied this technology to the shroud, the image displayed depth and relief, suggesting that the image's intensity correlates with the distance between the cloth and the body it supposedly covered. Moreover, the image on the shroud depicts a man who has suffered physical torment consistent with Roman crucifixion. The patterns of wounds visible on the body align with the biblical account of Christ's suffering. There are markings that suggest a crown of thorns, scourge marks across the back, wounds on the wrists and feet where nails would have been driven, and a wound in the side that aligns with the piercing by a Roman spear. The patterns found in the image on the shroud, from the negative image, the three-dimensional qualities, to the accurate depiction of crucifixion wounds, add an intricate layer of evidence that supports the shroud's authenticity. These patterns, when observed collectively, form a compelling narrative that echoes the biblical accounts of Christ's crucifixion and burial. Just as a pattern of dots forms a clear W, the patterns within the Shroud of Turin form a compelling narrative of its origins. As we've seen, patterns hold the power to reveal larger truths. From the intricate herringbone weave of the Shroud of Turin, hinting at its origins, to the repeated discoveries affirming biblical accounts, patterns have helped us unravel complex mysteries. They've guided us through the labyrinth of historical evidence, pointing towards the shroud's potential authenticity. Though absolute proof may elude us, patterns provide compelling evidence. In the end, it's the patterns that guide us to a greater understanding, be it a simple W or the complex origins of the Shroud of Turin.